Hi, my name is Michael. I'm the creator of fman. Today I thought it would be fun to show you how I create a new release of fman. I'll show you everything from the very first line of code that I write until the moment where the new version of fman is uploaded and available from fman's website. Have fun! So the first thing I do before releasing a new version is I go to fman's homepage and I click on the Issues link at the top. This takes me to fman's issue tracker, where I see which features and bug fixes have been requested by users. The feature or bug fix I want to show you in this video is a very simple one, and what it is a user reported that he sometimes receives an error message when trying to delete a file. So this is from user CR101. He says he's trying to get an error when trying to delete the folder permanently on Windows 10. And looking at the error, we see that it is a file not found error. So apparently, fman is trying to delete the file or a directory tree, and as fman is doing that, one of the files it wanted to delete has already disappeared. Maybe it was deleted by another process. And so what we want to do in that case is to simply make fman ignore file not found errors when trying to delete files, because when fman tries to delete the file and the file is already gone, then it has already achieved what the user asked it to do. So let me switch to fman's source code and let's implement this fix. I use PyCharm to develop fman. It's an IDE for Python development. It's by JetBrains and I love it. Let me show you fman's source tree in it. So this is fman's source code. You can see here a bunch of directories. The main directory and the most important one is the source directory. All of fman's source code is in there. The source code for the app itself is in the main directory, and then there's code for automated tests, the unit test and the integration test directory. fman is a Python project, so in Python you can use so-called requirements files to declare dependencies. So for instance, on Windows, the dependencies are PyInstaller and a few others that are not of great interest. What else? There's a bin directory which contains small little scripts that are useful during development. A cache directory which is generated as part of the build. Conf directory contains configuration files. And the most useful thing is the build script. Here, build.py. It's a Python script that I wrote for everything to do with fman's build. So you'll see it in a little bit, fman's build process. But this script contains all the functionality required for building fman, packaging it, uploading it to the website, and so on and so forth. So it's very useful and powerful. So let's fix the bug. I open the relevant code. Delete permanently is a part of the core plugin. So fman offers a plugin API, which you also can use to customize fman for your needs. And in order to eat its own dog food, and in order to make sure that the API is powerful enough so you can actually do the same things that fman itself can do, most of fman's core functionality is actually implemented as a plugin. And the name of this plugin is the core plugin. You can find information about that plugin and about how to write your own plugins on fman's website in the docs section. And yes, so let me show you the command in question. The command in question, that is the command that is run when you press Shift and Delete is called delete permanently. This is the command where we have the bug, and this is its source code. So we can see here that first, when you run the command, so when you press the keyboard shortcut, fman first checks which files you have selected. If you didn't select any, then fman shows you an alert, no file is selected. If you selected more than one, then fman says, do you really want to delete these 5 items? Or if you selected just one, then fman says, do you really want to delete this one file? And the code for showing the alert is here. So show alert, do you really want to permanently delete the file? This action cannot be undone. So when we see that in fman, maybe, I'm starting fman, and I press shift and delete, and then we see the alert here. I hope it's not too small for you to see, but I'll read it out loud. Do you really want to permanently delete the file? This action cannot be undone. And this is where we have the bug. And if the user accepts this dialog and says, yes, I do want to delete the file, then we go over each of the files that were selected. If it's a directory, we call a function called rm3. It's a Python function. Otherwise, we call a different function that is responsible for deleting single files rather than directories. And the bug is in this line. So this rm3 call fails. We saw that on the issue tracker in the screenshot that the user had posted. So what do we do to handle the error? This rm3 function comes from Python, and it optionally takes a parameter called onError. And we see here that this function, we can supply this as a function that gets called when an error occurs, and it takes these parameters. It takes as parameter a function that caused the error, the file path, and an exception info. So what we want to do, or maybe what else might be interesting here, is that the default implementation is the following: def onError raise. So what we will do is we will mimic the default implementation, only catching the one case where it's a file not found error, and in that case we will ignore it. So let me go back to the command. So here in this rm3, we said we wanted to define our own error handler. So we do that by defining a function called handle error, and it said it takes a function, the file path, and an exception info. And actually the exception value, this is stored in the first index of the exception info tuple, and we want to check if the exception value is an instance of a file not, sorry, if this instance exception value file not found error, then we want to ignore it. So we'll say return, and otherwise we will do the same as the default implementation, which is to re-raise the error. We can simplify this slightly, so we say if it's not an instance of a file not found error, then we raise the error. And we can inline this variable, this exception value variable, like this. So to handle the error, we check, was the error caused because a file could not be found? Only if not, do we raise the error, otherwise we ignore it. And then we have to actually use this error handler that we just defined in the rm3 function. And that was it. That should be the entire bug fix. Unfortunately, it's not easy to test the file name not found error occurring just as we are deleting a directory. So also for this purposes of keeping this video short, I will skip this for now. What I would normally do is that I can start fman from the source code. So if I press Shift F10 in PyCharm, then fman is starting, and I could now test this. But I've already tested it before, and I think that this should be the correct way of fixing this bug. Right, so let us now commit these changes. So I see here at the bottom which files I've changed. I've changed the commands.py file in the core plugin. I can see the differences that I made. So we see here I added a few lines. I added this error handler, and then I instruct rm3 to actually use my error handler. Looks good. So what I'll do now is I will commit these changes. So fman's source code is stored in Git, and what I'm doing now is I'm creating a Git commit that captures the new version of fman's code. Fix, and the commit message is fix error in delete permanently. Or actually, I will call this ignore file not found errors in delete permanently. And then I commit and push this change to fman's source code repository. And we push. Right. So now that we've done this, we want to publish a new version of fman so that new people who download fman from fman's homepage already get this new bug fix, or also that existing users, when they update fman via its auto update mechanism, you can find more information about how that works on the homepage in the docs section under automatic updates. That also existing users, when they update fman, they get the new version, which includes the bug fix. So for this, we will use fman's build script that I've already mentioned, and we do that from a terminal. So here I have a normal terminal. The first thing I will do is that I will switch to fman's source directory as well. I use a tool, an open source tool called Desk. I find it extremely useful. What it allows me to do is, with a very short command such as this, I can do several things at once, including going to fman's source directory and defining several commands that I can then use, shortcuts basically, that I can then use in the context of that directory. So what happened behind the scenes now was that Python's virtual environment was activated and a few commands were defined. So I have them at my fingertips and I don't have to manually set environment variables or other things. For instance, what it allows me to do is I've defined a command called test that runs fman's unit tests and integration tests. So when I run this command, we saw that 163 automated tests were run and all of them passed. Yay. And another command that I've defined here, and now it gets a little more interesting, is fman is available for multiple platforms. So here I'm developing on Ubuntu, but fman is available on Windows, Mac, Ubuntu and Arch Linux at the moment. So I need to release the new version of fman for all of these other platforms. And the only way this is possible is by actually building fman on each of these platforms. So in a few moments I will show you how to build fman on Windows and how I build it on Mac. With the build script it's all very, very easy. But for now I'm focused on building for Ubuntu. And for Ubuntu, I want to build on the oldest possible version of Ubuntu, because then also people who are on an old version of Ubuntu are able to use fman. If I build on a new version of Ubuntu, then only people who have that or a later version of Ubuntu can use fman, and I wanted fman to be available on all the Ubuntu versions as well. So long story short, I use a technology called Docker for this. Docker allows me to run a virtual machine with other operating systems in it. And in particular, I use Docker to run a virtual machine of, I believe, Ubuntu 12 inside it. Even though right here, what you're seeing here on this screen, this is Ubuntu 16. What I do, I have defined a command called Ubuntu that connects me to this virtual machine. So now I'm inside a virtual machine that runs Ubuntu 12. And now I want to build and release fman inside this virtual machine. One thing I haven't automated yet is the activation of the virtual environment. Right. So now I can use the build script. This build.py that I've pointed out before to release a new version of fman. So I press enter. It says, okay, we're releasing version 063. What should the next version be? The default of 064 sounds good. So we'll press enter. And now fman performs the release. So it takes the Python source code, it packages into a distributable application, including the required dependencies, because maybe, for instance, not everybody will have Python 3.5 installed, which fman uses, or the Qt or Qt framework, which fman also uses. So, in short, it takes the source code and packages it into a form that I can put on fman's website, and you, if you're in Ubuntu, can download and just run as a normal application. And the build script actually also, at this moment, also uploads the binary to fman's website. So all I need to do is wait, and in order for you not to get bored, I will pause the video at this point and resume once this has gone through. And we're back. So the build has succeeded. It says done. The next steps I should do. And what it has actually completed doing now is to release the new version of fman for Ubuntu. All the necessary steps, including uploading the new version to fman's website. But I mentioned before that there are also other platforms that fman needs to be released on, and I will now release fman on these other platforms. First, I'll release fman for Arch Linux. What I'll do for that is I will open a new terminal. I will change the font size so you can see. As before, I open this desk. I use this desk command. You can find the desk command on GitHub. It's by a user called James OB. I find it extremely useful. As before, and similarly to before, I'll now spawn a Docker instance that runs Arch Linux and connect to it. So I type in Arch, which is a command I've defined myself. And now I'm connected to a Docker instance that runs Arch Linux. As before, I'm activating the virtual environment, and as on Ubuntu, I will say release a new version of fman for Arch Linux. If you know Arch Linux, what this also does is it uploads the binaries to fman's website and to the Arch user repository. So, which is a central repository for software to be installed on Arch Linux. It's like the App Store of Arch Linux, in case you don't know Arch. So as before, this takes maybe a few minutes, and in order not to bore you, I will again resume the video once the build on Arch has completed. And we're back. So the Arch build and the Arch release, fman's release process for Arch Linux have completed, and the latest version of fman has been uploaded to the Arch user repository and to fman's website. So I will close this window now. So still the operatings for which we still have to release fman are Windows and Mac. For these two, we can't use a Docker image, which would allow us to do it just from the command line as in here. Instead, we'll use full-fledged virtual machines. So there is a tool called VirtualBox, which I use for this, and I've prepared it here. So here I'm running Windows inside a virtual machine. So this is Windows 7, and it is as if I was running Windows as the main operating system on my computer. But I can, using VirtualBox, I can run it in parallel with other operating systems at the same time, in particular if I like. So I've already prepared the command prompt that we need here. So what we need to do now is the source code for fman's new version has been uploaded to the repository, but has not yet made its way into the Windows virtual machine. So I need to fetch these changes. I do that with the command git pull, and then I need to check out the version which I want to build, which was version 0.6.3. And now I do exactly the same as before. I call this python build.py release command. And as before, as on the other operating systems we've already seen, which were Ubuntu and Arch Linux, the build script now does its magic and builds fman, turns it into an exe file, and creates an installer and upload. Hang on, it does not yet upload. There is a manual step that you'll see in a second, where I need to log into fman's admin interface. But it at least builds fman and turns it into an executable. As before, this takes a little, so I will resume the video once the building has completed. Okay, so the build process for fman on Windows has completed, and it says at the bottom here that I should now upload fman setup.exe to update.fman.io. On Windows, so this is mostly for automatic updates. On Windows, to enable automatic updates, fman uses a technology called Google Omaha. This is the same technology that's also used by the Chrome browser for automatic updates. And the technology was open sourced by Google, and fman uses it to update itself. So I have not yet automated this part of the build process. So what I need to do is I need to go to the admin interface for the update server. I'm already logged in. I create a new version. So it's fman Windows stable 0.6.3.0. These are still a few manual steps that I haven't yet had time to automate. I need to provide two actions, one for when fman is being updated and one for when it's being installed. I wrote a blog post about the basic principles of Google Omaha on fman's blog, in case you're interested. It's actually quite interesting how this technology works. It's very powerful. So the new version is being uploaded. it's nearly there. We're halfway there from the upload. And once it's done, I'll show you how fman is being built for macOS. And the final step that we'll then do afterwards will be to update fman's website. So you'll also see the source code or part of the source code of fman's website and which changes are required to publish a new version there. In particular, we'll see the changelog. So there's on fman's website, there is a changelog section where I always describe which new features or bug fixes were added, and you will see that as well. So the new version was updated successfully. So we'll close this now. I will check out the master branch again. And this concludes the build on Windows. So on to the release process on Mac. Similarly to Windows, I am running macOS inside a virtual box as a virtual machine on my main system, which is Ubuntu. So as before, I've opened a terminal here, and I've already issued the desk command for opening fman source tree. As before, I pull the new source code version and I check out the version of the source code that I want to release, and then I say release. And now, as on the other operating systems, the build script takes the Python code, the source code, turns it into a packaged executable and uploads it to fman's servers. As before, in order not to bore you, I will pause the video here until the build is complete. And we're back. So the release process for fman on Mac has just completed, and the new version has already been uploaded to fman's homepage. So I will close this. Oh, hang on. I will check out the master branch again. Right. That's it. Okay. So now the first build step that we ran for Ubuntu said we still have to perform one step that's necessary to finalize the release. It's called python build.py post release. So we're doing that. And that's done. What we will do now is to switch to fman's website, so the code for fman's website. And what fman's website has is under the download section, there's a link to the changelog, where each new version, where you can see the changes for each new version, and we want to add an entry there. So to do that, this is the source code for fman's website. You can see here we're in PyCharm again, but on the left we're in fman.io, so that's the source code for fman's website. It's built using the Django web framework. I don't want to go into too many details right now. What I do want to show you is the source code for the changelog HTML file. I have it open here. And what we need to do here is we add the new section for the new version. It's 0.6.3. I've already added this before. Today is the 25th of August. And for the change I just made, I want to add an entry saying fixed a bug affecting the delete permanently command on Windows. And another thing that is required when releasing a new version is to update fman's version. So when you go to fman's download page, it says what the current version is. So on the homepage so far, it's still version 0.6.2. And we want to update the date of this version. Also, because it is also used for fman's licensing functionality. When people buy fman, they can decide whether to include updates or not. And if they don't include updates, then they're only entitled to the version of fman that was current at the time they performed the purchase. So the website, which handles the purchases, needs to know which is the current version, so that when today somebody buys fman, it knows, okay, this person is entitled to that version of fman. And this can be changed in a simple settings file where we say the fman version is 0.6.3 and the release date of this version is the 25th of August. And these are all the changes that are required. So we can see here that before the bug fix I've showed you, I've made a few other improvements that will also be part of this same release. And we can, I've already added them. We'll see them live in a few seconds on the changelog. So I'm committing the file, changes for release 0.6.3, commit and push. So I've now committed the changes to fman, the source code, Git source code repository for fman's website. Now I'm using my beloved desk script to go to the source code for fman.io, so not for fman itself, but for its website. And there I've created a release command. And when I run that command, I'm prompted for the password for fman's website. And now the changes that I just made to the source code of fman's website are being uploaded. And when I now open fman's website and reload the page, I can see that, hooray, the version has been updated, the date of the release, and when I look at the changelog, I see, we fixed the bug affecting the delete permanently command on Windows. Awesome. So that concludes the video. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My details are on the contact section on the website. And it would be great to hear from you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.